What's up, a cinemashogun here, and when the news first broke about these underground tunnels beneath the synagogue in NYC, the initial excuse that they used for why they dug these tunnels was that they dug these tunnels because of the lockdowns. You know, New York was one of the craziest places to be during the lockdowns. All of the rules, regulations, and restrictions stopped people from freely living their lives. People couldn't go to the store. People couldn't go to church. People couldn't go to the synagogue. So the excuse that they put out there was that they dug these tunnels so they can go to the synagogue during the lockdowns. Now, when I heard that excuse, I thought, hey, if this is true, then that's fine with me. Don't get me wrong. These tunnels look really creepy and sketchy, but if this excuse is true, then I'm okay with that. Don't get me wrong, it's still dangerous, but I'm okay with that. Because F the lockdowns, F the restrictions. I have no problem with people defying those nonsense restrictions that they put on us a few years ago. And you know, I'm a totally rational person. I'm really glad that this story is happening at the same time as the Miami alien story, because you can see that I have no problem calling out fake, baseless, nonsense conspiracies that happen online, right? I have no problem calling out fake nonsense, but at the same time, if I see a story and I think there may be more to the story, or I think there's something weird about it, I'm going to talk about it. Even when I get pushback. Even when people try to silence me. So, you know, I like to think of myself as a rational person. At the very least, I'm a lot more rational than most people on the internet these days, okay? So when I heard the excuse that, these tunnels were built because of the lockdowns, I thought, if this is true, okay, cool. The only problem was, I looked into the situation, and I quickly found out that no, these tunnels weren't dug and built during the lockdowns. Maybe they were started during the lockdowns, but they had been working on these tunnels within the last couple of months. So that right there was a major red flag for me. Naturally, I'm going to become even more skeptical when I find out that I've been lied to. Like I said, I like to think of myself as a perfectly rational person. I saw these Jewish people popping out of holes in the ground. I saw people getting yanked out of walls, creepy tunnels, and I thought, this is some wild stuff. But they put out that excuse, and I said, you know what? If this is true, okay. But quickly I found out that that excuse was a lie. And quickly the rest of the internet also found out that that excuse was a lie. And now, the excuse has changed. Would you look at that? Within the last few days, the excuse has changed so much. Now, don't get me wrong. We are on like excuse 5 or 6 right now. I kind of lost count. In fact, they're running with 2 different excuses at the same time. No one can get their story straight when it comes to these tunnels. So initially, the excuse was that they dug these tunnels because of the lockdowns. And then, once we found out that that was a lie, they changed the excuse to, these tunnels were dug because we wanted to expand the synagogue. Instead of finding a rational way to expand the synagogue, instead of going and talking to a contractor, instead of buying another building, buying more property, they want us to believe, we wanted to expand the synagogue, so we started burrowing under the ground like freaking moles. We started digging holes in the ground. Now, obviously, that doesn't make sense, right? And then you look at where they're digging these holes, it doesn't look like a nice area. You got whole entire rooms filled with freshly dug dirt. It doesn't look like anyone would want to hang out down there. Okay, look at the photos. Do you think anyone wants to be down here? Does this look like a place of worship? No, it looks really dirty, sketchy, freaky, and creepy, right? But the second excuse was, oh, we wanted to expand the synagogue. But now the excuse has changed again, because that just sounded stupid, right? I mean, building the tunnels because of the lockdowns sounded kind of believable. Hell, a lot of people would be on your side if that was true. But once we figured out that was a lie, they changed it to, oh, we wanted to expand the synagogue. And now they've changed it to, oh, there's a property dispute. And then it went from a property dispute to, oh, it's unruly teenagers. We've lost control of the unruly teenagers in our community. So they decided that they were going to start digging underground tunnels. What? What? Huh? You know how many parents are watching this channel right now? How many of you all struggle to get your teens to get off their cell phone for 5 minutes? How many of you all struggle to get your teenager to maybe cut the grass or do something for the love of God? But the story that they threw out there, the third, or maybe it was the fourth excuse, I think it was the fourth excuse, right? Was that it's unruly teenagers. They're just going wild. They're digging tunnels everywhere. So we went from the tunnels were built because of the lockdowns to the tunnels were built because we wanted to expand the synagogue to now it's unruly teenagers, a property dispute. All of this different stuff. One of the latest excuses is, there's no tunnels at all. Never mind the fact that we literally saw freaking people popping out of holes in the ground. Never mind that we watched the police literally dragging people out of holes in the wall. Never mind the fact that we literally watched them break down a wall that was hiding the tunnel. Right? Never mind all that. Now we're supposed to believe that there is no tunnel, but at the same time, they've already admitted there was a tunnel with their last 5 excuses, right? So now we're supposed to believe either A, there is no tunnel, or B, there is a tunnel, but none of them had knowledge about it. It was just this unruly portion of their community, an unruly portion of their church or their or whatever you want to call it, that decided we're going to start digging underground tunnels. So like I said, I am a perfectly rational person. I have not sat here and told you that, for a fact, these tunnels are being used to smuggle people. These tunnels are being used for baby sacrifices. I haven't sat here and told you that's what's happening down there. I simply question what in the hell are these tunnels being used for? And as a rational person, when you change your story, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, but 6 or 7 times within 2 or 3 days, I can't help but feel like something really bad may be happening down there. Because you keep changing your story. You're inviting people to question things even more. No one can keep their story straight. Everyone is so desperate to make an excuse to get people's attention off of this story that they've caused so much confusion that now more and more people are looking at this like, you're automatically guilty of something really crazy. And I'm not trying to say they're guilty of anything crazy. But at the very least, if you can't acknowledge that digging these illegal secret underground tunnels is crazy in itself, then you are a liar. You are lying to not only us, but you're lying to yourself. Because at the very least, at the bare minimum, digging these tunnels is very illegal and very dangerous. They could have killed Lord knows how many people. They could have caused buildings to collapse. They could have harmed their own people and their own community in the process. So at the bare minimum, it's illegal in itself to do what was happening down there. Period. So yeah, it's not irrational to say that if you change your story or if you change your excuse a half a dozen times, then it's obvious that you're not being truthful. You're not being truthful. We already caught you lying with the first excuse. Now you're on excuse number 7 and you still want us to believe you. And oh, we're bad. We must be against Jewish people if we don't believe the 7th excuse that you've made, after already knowing that the other 6 were false. These people have acknowledged that the tunnels exist, and then they turn around and try to pretend that it's no tunnel. And at this point, it looks as if they're running a smoke screen. Like, this looks like some slimy, sleazy, snaky stuff, if you ask me. What it looks like is that they're trying to cause this ball of confusion by throwing tons and tons of narratives out there. We're just going to throw as many excuses out there as we can, so it makes it almost impossible to get to the real truth of what happened. And there's news articles popping up online with various different explanations and various different excuses. You look into the news outlets running these stories and you realize that these news outlets are owned by the same people who like to go to this synagogue. They're all tied in together. And they're just throwing, oh, this is the excuse. This is the excuse. Like throwing noodles at a wall. Let's see which one sticks. Which one sticks. And in the process, they cause so much confusion that it becomes tiring trying to figure out what really happened. Because if this is a simple story, a simple explanation, and there wasn't nothing crazy going on down there, then cool. I'm fine with that. But when you change your story 7 times, people with common sense are going to keep asking questions. And unlike other people, you can label me whatever you want to. It's not going to stop me from talking about any topic that I feel like talking about. So, my big question right now, my main concern about all of this, is that this story, these tunnels, they were discovered like in December-ish. Maybe even before that. Who really knows these days, right? But we know that they've known about these tunnels since at least December. The news story about these tunnels being discovered, it didn't gain national attention. This story gained national attention once they popped up to fill these tunnels up with cement. And the people who built these tunnels started fighting the cops. They started getting arrested. And it's funny because they're like, it's just the unruly teenagers. We literally watched the videos of grown men popping out of holes, grown men being thrown in handcuffs after being pulled out of the wall. It's not kids. You can't just simply blame this on kids and teenagers when we watched the videos of grown men popping out of holes and the police, the NYPD, literally snatching people out of walls. But here's my concern. Like I was saying, we didn't really find out about this story until the tunnels were already about to be filled. What happened in that time period between the tunnels being discovered and the tunnels being filled? It's like by the time they let you know that these tunnels existed, it's already too late because they're already filling them. You'll never be able to know what happened down there. And it appears to me that the NYPD just took whatever excuse this synagogue, this community, these people, the NYPD just took whatever excuse they gave them at face value. I don't think there was a thorough investigation of these tunnels. I don't think they fully investigated what these tunnels could be used for or what they could have been used for. It's just immediately, all right, we're going to go ahead and fill these up. Before we even answer any questions, before you could even gather your thoughts, before you even have any idea of what's actually happening here, we're going to go ahead and fill these tunnels up. I find that very, very concerning. And I know you could watch it and you could think, oh man, it's the police are working against these people. They're filling the tunnels up. Are they really working against them? Because it looks like to me, y'all sealed these tunnels up and you sealed up any hope of finding out what they could have been used for. I think it's wild that a story this crazy wasn't talked about. It didn't make it out there into the mainstream until the tunnels were already filled. Where was the investigation? Where were the questions? Where were the answers? Nowhere to be found. Now, if this was a Christian church, if this was a Catholic church, or any other type of church and they found these tunnels, I would have the same exact questions. In fact, I would be allowed to talk about this more openly because this happened in a synagogue. It's like you can't talk about it. People don't want you to talk about it, but it's open season when talking about other religions, or at least when talking about Christians, right? But if this happened in any other place of worship, I would be right here asking the same questions, and I guarantee you that there would be more questions being raised by the mainstream media as well. There wouldn't be this effort to cover up this story, and those tunnels probably wouldn't be filled with cement right now. They would probably be filled with law enforcement and investigators trying to find out what those tunnels were being used for. Imagine if this happened at a mosque. If they were Muslims, we found out Muslims were building underground tunnels underneath their places of worship. So, I don't care what type of person you are. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what God you worship, what religious beliefs you have. If you start digging creepy, secret underground tunnels, I'm going to have questions. If I started building tunnels, I would want you all to have questions. But you know, that tunnel would have to be really wide to fit my big ass, okay? So you don't have to worry about me digging any tunnels. But when it comes to this situation, that's probably one of the biggest questions I have and one of my main concerns. Because it can easily look like, oh, the NYPD found out about these secret tunnels and they shut them down. But maybe that's what they want it to look like. Maybe, you know, this is an effort to go ahead and cover up whatever was going on down there. Because no questions have been answered. There was never even a period of time when anyone had the opportunity to even ask questions. All we got is 7 to 8. By the time you're watching this video, they'll probably be on excuse number 10. All we got is all of these different conflicting stories and conflicting excuses coming from people within that synagogue. And none of it adds up. None of it adds up. Because all of it conflicts each other. You got time periods that are conflicting. And now they're trying to just basically blame it on people within their own church. Like they had no idea. It's this group of radicals within our own community. These teenagers. Listen, I got a lot more to say about these tunnels. And I'm going to save the rest of what I have to say for a future video. But for now, because, hold on. There's some conversations that we definitely need to have. Because if you think for 1 second that any group of people is beyond criticism, if you think for 1 second that I can't cover a certain story because maybe people involved in this story look this way or believe in this, that doesn't fly here. So we're going to have a conversation about that later. But for now, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you're feeling generous, you can send a donation via CashApp. I'll have my CashApp in the pinned comment. Or you can donate via Super Thanks or for free. You can help the channel by liking, subscribing, ringing the notification bell, all of that good stuff. Now, with that being said, I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.